There we go. Then I'll just go around selecting the border once more. And there we are. And let's pin them. Ooh, a few more that I didn't get. Pin them. And then I'll deselect, go back down to unfold tool, and I'll just come in here with a little bit bigger brush and unfold that. Make sure I don't hit the other UV shell, and then bam. So if that's something you want to do to, you know, make sure that each UV shell is perfectly straight along its border and try to get the maximum space out of them by getting them perfectly square for each shell, that's something that you definitely is a different process you can do. Again, once you pin, you want to get rid of the pinning, so you can also come over here and say unpin all, and there you are. Now that takes care of these guys. So let's do this top piece right here. So again, I'm going to select that object, and let's go back to create. And again, you can just kind of go through it, each one, and see which one gives you the best result. Normal base does pretty good. And then you got the planar. So here's the left mouse click, middle click, right click. Looks like the middle click, which is the y-axis, is doing pretty good. Even normal base did pretty decent. You can do contour stretch, which is actually it actually could work out. What you would have to do if you use the contour stretch, again, you have to use the unfold option, and boom, there it goes. So that's definitely one way of starting this right there. Now you could do the same thing with the planar, and then just do the unfold, and it does the same thing too. It just builds that establishment. Now here's the cool part. Now I could come in here with this all flat out and start cutting out these little bumpers that I have on my crate out. So I can cut all of this out and even cut the top off and all that. And then normally you could do that just by selecting an edge and following the border all the way around. And then you can come in here, go to cut, you can just say cut, and that should cut that piece off, and now that should be its own shell to separate. But I have one other way of doing this, which is newer, and again, this only works in the perspective view. Is you go up to UV at the top, and there's this new 3D cut and sew tools. You could turn that on, and you can see drag to cut, and then hold control to sew. So you can come in here and start sewing all this, cutting this all up and sewing it all up. Pretty cool. But before I even do that, I want, this model's pretty symmetrical. So what I want to do is this. I want to make sure I sew it in shell mode. So I went to the move. I want to make sure I get this perfectly straight to the world. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up symmetry, so anything I do to one side, it does to the other. So it's pretty cool if you can pull this off. So I'm going to go up to the symmetry up here, and I'm going to say based off topology, and it's going to say, you know, it can't activate because it needs an edge. So I'm going to say select this edge, and there it is. Now I got that edge selected, and then I went to topology. Or you can, again, you can use it based off the object X of the X, Y, and Z of the object, local, or the world. It all depends. But now, as you can see, anything I do to one side, it will automatically do to the other. And now I'll come over here, use that UV 3D cut to sew tool, and then if I just cut, you can see it will go through and start finding the border, so I can just kind of click through it and it will try to find an edge. And then the cool thing about this tool is that it will start automatically color coding your different UV shells. And again, this is working out pretty good well for me. It might be a little trial and error on your part to get it to work right, but for me it worked almost instantly right off the bat. So now I'm going to come over here. I'm going to separate this top piece. There we go. And there we are. I think that one got it, right? Nope, right here. There's one. I got to cut this side and this side. I think that did all the pieces. So there we go. So now I was able to cut this top part from these side pieces relatively fast. And then now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down to unfold and unfold it. Oop, make sure I'm back on object mode. Hit W, I'll deselect. Then I'll hit unfold. It's being a little bit of a booger. I'll select everything and then we'll do an unfold. And there we go. And that actually unfolded everything pretty decently. And then I can come down to arrange and layout. And there's a bunch of new arranging tools, but for us, I'm just going to go to layout. So if I want to get to the options box, all I got to do is hold shift and left mouse click, and I get a menu come up. Packing resolution is going to be 256. Method's going to be still unfold 3D. I'm going to go through 2 packing iterations. Shell pre-rotation, I'm going to leave that off. Shell pre-scaling, again, I always like leaving this to preserve 3D ratios. That's fine. You can always tell it to also, rotate the shells and translate the shells. That's fine if it needs to do that to get the best fit. Put in your texture size that you think you're going to need. So for me, a 2K. Then I came in here and I put in a shell padding of 10 and a tile padding of 10. And then I want this to sit to the 0 to 1 space. So that works pretty good. And there it is. So I kind of went in there, tried to find the best maximum spacing for it. Now we could do a lot of the, this will try to do its best to do its pixel density. So you can even turn on this little checker pattern up here at the top and you can kind of see what it did. And it did a pretty decent job. As you can see, the pixel density of it, every shell and it's in the checker pattern, it looks very similar in size. So the pixel density is pretty decent across the board. So we also want to incorporate these guys in here because I want to combine all these as one texture set inside a substance. So what I want to do is I want to go to object and select these guys, which I kind of put way over here. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to incorporate that and I'm going to run another layout, which it should remember all my settings, and then boom, now it brought all those in right there. So we can see a better idea of what that looks like. So you can see, I spent a little bit more time kind of designating the border. I was able to get the pack in pretty well, where the other ones are a little bit harder to do. But that gets you a good starting point on how to pack your UVs for this top piece. So in the next video, I'm going to do the same thing to the bottom.